Okay, in our last segment, I'm going to take a real chance here and attempt in a little window of time to teach a way that we physically teach people how to understand this philosophy in practice more deeply. How you can communicate to kids coaching points that allow them to understand what it means to play with a whole heart, a strong will, clear mind, great passion. Now, what it means to not worry about the scoreboard, because in this game, which is an aggressive, very intense contest, we don't keep score on purpose. Part of the reason we don't keep score on purpose is we want them to feel and taste the difference between playing what we call free and playing with fear. Fear, because whenever you introduce an outcome, you introduce stress and pressure. So on the one hand, when people don't have a scoreboard, they generally don't try as hard and they just try to have fun. And when they have a scoreboard, they try harder because they want to win. And what we're trying to get them to do is to play with their whole heart and try harder for the sake of the game and the process, and be not concerned about outcome. When we teach this, sometimes at the end, after playing it, we introduce the scoreboard and then debrief with them afterwards how they felt different. Now, instead of taking chances and playing free, they feared making outs, they feared making mistakes, they feared losing the game, and they lost all the joy. They lost part of the passion, depending on whether they were ahead or behind, and they lost the ability to play free and not fear outcomes, which then inhibited their performance, caused them, depending on the player, to keep their cards closer to the vest, to not try stuff, to risk stuff, because of being afraid of either making a mistake or losing. And we ask them what they feel physiologically and mentally when the scoreboard gets introduced to this contest, which, as I explained, will sound very crazy and fun. The downside is I can't show it to you. The best way to do it, as we talked about in learning, I'm not communicating this the least effective way, which is hoping that you can somehow maybe understand some of the principles and some of how this actually can produce the principles so that we can observe them, excuse me, and see them. Best yet would be us interacting about it. And you can say, what about this? What about this? What about this? What about this? Better yet would be you see it as I talk about it, like on the screen. Better yet, you do it so you could feel it. Better yet, you teach it on the grass with actual people. I'm teaching it now as information only, which, as we said, is the least effective way to communicate it. And so we're hoping that in this clip, you at least consider it as an idea, an option, a concept that maybe you could try or pull off. And obviously, if you want to, give me a call and we can walk through it. Whoever you are listening to this out there, we could walk through it. And maybe at some point we'll film it, which would be the best way to do it in terms of an online setting or in a hybrid class setting, because then you could see it and we could talk about it. That's short of doing it and certainly not teaching it. Hard to teach it if you've never done it. This is called hustle ball. To give proper credit, its derivatives from the Fellowship of Christian Athlete summer camps. That's my understanding where this came from. And Frosty Westering, who was tied to the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, going to those camps when he was coaching and then was involved in them. That's how I met Frosty. I met Frosty and his family at a FCA camp in San Diego, California. And they were doing hustle ball as one of the contests within the sport camp. That's what they've done as many years as I can remember. And so he took it and applied it in our football setting, because we then played hustle ball in our preseason retreat, which they called Breakaway. And he was using it in order to create some team and culture and climate. And they kept score because they kept scores in their contests. And it was his way to see how people handled winning and losing on the scoreboard. And we use it a little bit different. We use it at a barometer to let them see and feel what it's like to play with a whole heart, a strong will, a clear mind, and great passion. We have no scoreboard involved because we want them to feel what it feels like to play when you care less about winning and losing because it's not even on the table. And our goal is to break fear. I didn't write this down. To play free, break fear, Play with our hair on fire. That's to play. It's really a correlative. It's our terminology for playing with great passion. To play completely free and crazy, intensity, focus, energy, effort. While we use put-ups. Put-ups we've described in previous clips. While we work at guys, gals giving put-ups, little verbal one-liner encouragements that are specific, right? And responsive to something that either you hope they do or that they've done. They're either speaking about how you want them to play or speaking how they just played in a way that affirms them, builds them up, and keeps hope alive, basically. That's our terminology. We play and think this way to keep hope alive, because in the roller coaster world of sports, when you're ahead and behind, et cetera, what you want to do is have some way to set the thermostat so you're not like a thermometer that goes up and down, right? That's the goal, and that's our intent. And this is a way to have all those kinds of things addressed. And in the midst of the game, we often stop the game to do teaching points. And when you stop the game, for instance, if I was running it, who might be standing anywhere here as the one single game official, referee, umpire, whatever you want to call it, I'll blow a whistle or honk or something, and I'll make them all run to me for the coaching point that we're using now in the midst of that game. And we do it a lot. We do it a lot during the game, partly because we want to use this experience to teach them the what and the why and the how, but also because we're now coaching intensity and effort. Because when they run to me, or they run back to me, the umpire, and when they run out of the field and run back in the field, we ask for everything, meaning they're running full speed. What I've found in sports is when you say a guy to run full speed, he runs, but it's generally not full speed. It may be 85%, it may be 90%, and at some level, it's a fast glide. And we don't want people to play sports in a fast glide. We want them to play with their whole heart. Now, some sports you can't do that, but we want them to get a feel from this game of what it feels like to have your whole body intensely focused on maximizing it. If I was lifting, that'd be maximizing the lift. If I was jumping, that'd be maximizing the jump. If I was running, we want them to feel what it feels like to run full speed. And generally, as I said, people don't know what that feels like unless they have to do it. So oftentimes when kids are running off the field, I'll be talking to some players and I'll say, see that guy running in? Is he running full speed? And they'll all say no, because they can tell by observation that he's not running full speed. And when he comes, I'll say, did you run full speed? And he'll say yes, because he feels he was, if full speed meant hard. And then I'll say to him, do you really think you ran full speed? And he'll often say yes. Or if he thinks I'm kind of loading the question, he'll go, no, because he thinks I want him to say no. But now he doesn't even know if he was running full speed. And then I'll say to the players, honestly, without trying to be diminishing, did you feel like he ran full speed? They'll all say no. And I'll say, now I want you to run back out there and run back full speed. And he'll run back different than he ran the first time. So he called full speed a quantity of effort that was less than everything he had. And we're trying to teach people to live for Jesus with their whole heart, not a lot of heart, with a strong will, not a good will, with great passion, not just passion, and a clear mind, not just clarity. Does that make sense? This is how we use the sport to teach us how to walk with God for a lifetime, finish strong, reproduce, and multiply, which rarely happens in our experience in at least the United States of America, first world place. Why is that? Because people haven't learned what it looks like to surrender wholeheartedly, to submit at all, let alone regularly. And sport is a way that we can get them to realize that when they think they're living for Jesus with a whole heart, they may not be. But the only way they can tell that is when they're face to face with their own reality or somebody who is living with their whole heart and what that looks like. That's why the biblical narrative is so helpful, because we see people who died for their faith. And I'm afraid to be embarrassed for my faith. Those are two different guys. I'd say, do I love God? Yeah, I love God. Do I love him with my heart? Yeah, I love him with my heart. But I'm afraid of what somebody'd think if I said the name of Jesus. And this guy died because he knew if he said his name. There'd be the difference. It's important for us in the Western world to study the scriptures and the examples of those in other parts of the world who are committing their whole life to it versus committing a portion of time to it. These are the kinds of things that we talk about, of which sport is an educator. Let me share with you as best I can some of the rules of the game to hopefully communicate this. Remember, these are our targets. Now, this game, we have found critical that this be in place. It's sustainable, meaning as long as we've ever done it, until Jesus returns, our experiences, this game produces that result. An educational experience of what this looks like and feels like. Secondly, it's reproducible. You can do this game even any part of the world, even if they don't want to know what it is, because it's kind of like baseball. It's kind of like softball. It's kind of like kickball, but it's not. So if I was working in a country that didn't hit things with a bat, I wouldn't do baseball or softball. I'd use kickball. If all I had was a ball, I'd use kickball. If I had a softball, I'd use it. The point, I say mush ball here, that's my fault. Mush ball, softball. We don't use a baseball because it's too hard and we don't want guys with gloves. And we don't play softball unless the softball is very soft, because men and women are going to play it. They don't have gloves because we're not doing it to play the sport. This is not the actual sport. It's just a created sport like softball using a mush ball. They have real mush balls. I don't know if you've seen them. It's bigger than a softball, and it's actually mushy and soft. And even when it's hit hard, first of all, it doesn't go far, and it's very soft, so when you hit it, it doesn't go far. And when you field it, you can do it with your bare hands, and you can throw it. Now, you can do it with a volleyball. You can do it with a kickball, because it's the principles you're getting at. It's not the sport. It's not the game. But the rules in general are you're going to hit an object with your foot or a bat, and you're going to run around the bases in a normal way that you would in softball or kickball or baseball. And there's going to be outs, and there's 3 outs to an inning, just like there is in these sports. You don't have to do it that way, but we do, because we're trying at some level to make it similar to something, at least in America, that they are aware of generally. We just shift the rules to produce this, which I'll get to describe. So it's a mush ball, or use a softball. You can use a kickball. Kickball with the littler kids, for sure, but even if you had college kids or anybody else even older than that, kickball is easy because most people can kick a ball. And the table's a little level because some guys can hit a ball and some can't. And if you don't hit the ball well at all, then it doesn't make the game as fun, because you're trying to create significant movement with the ball going multiple places, which is easy with kickball, because with baseball, mush ball, softball, I may not be able to hit the right field, but with a kickball, I can kick it the right field. And so you use more of the field. It's a simpler deal. So for that reason, if I was thinking about a generic way to teach it, I would teach it as kickball with softball, baseball rules. That's the way to think about it. When we were dealing with college athletes, Frosty at PLU, he used mush balls or beat up softballs because they were generally pretty good athletes. They were college football players. Some may not be able to hit it well or hit it much, but they could hit it at least a little bit, and so the game functioned. But considering we're looking at multiple countries, male and female, multiple ages, we want it to be sustainable, that the game can be done anywhere in the world all the time forever, reproducible, that somebody could actually do it there. This can last until Jesus returns. It can be done anywhere in the world. It can be explained orally. We don't need sheets of paper, don't need binders. Obviously, if you have the way to see it somehow before, it enhances it. Not necessary. Fourth, it's simple. The rules are pretty simple, and we learn by doing. So in the beginning, there's going to be some stiffness because people will not connect that this is not baseball and softball, and the rules are different, and we got a kickball. But as you do it, you learn on the run. And the fifth is relational, and that means because we're doing put-ups, and because it's a game, and because it produces a culture where you have to be talking and encouraging and explaining and reminding guys, because the rules are shifty enough that you have to remind each other of what to do and what not to do, because it is unnatural. And obviously the people who have never played baseball or softball or kickball with bases, they have somewhat of an advantage because they're learning it for the first time. And those that have done it are going to end up relearning it. So this is, hustle ball again, is a way to teach the philosophy of competing biblically. Here's the rules. This guy here, these X are team, one team. X's are one team. They're in the field right now. You have a pitcher and a catcher. You can play this game with 9, like a normal game would be played. You could play it with 15. We've played it with 40 on a side. If you had too few players, it'd be a little problematic because at some point you could kick the ball in places where people aren't pretty easy, and it'd be hard to make outs, if you want to call it that. But the point is there's not a number that plays. If you by chance have a team, big team, and if you had 100 players and you wanted to have 2 hustle ball games going on because you wanted everybody to play and instruct, then you'd go 25 against 25 in 2 fields. Frankly, what we've done in that situation is if we split a team that's big, whatever kinds of football is one of the few sports that would have that many players, what we do is 50 people watch part of a game as the other 50 play it, because the people who are watching are learning by observing and listening. Some are learning by playing and some are learning by observing. It's all a win. So if you want to keep it pure, if you have an umpire that knows the game and can coach it this way, then you might stay on one field because you don't want somebody else being the official who doesn't clearly understand how to leverage the game for instruction about the philosophy. The X's are the other team. These are the out-of-bounds lines, just in baseball. These are the bases. Now, you don't have to have bases. You could use cones. You need something there, and the bases could be shorter. They don't have to be perfect because it's a game. It's not really a game. It's just the principles are like baseball and softball. This is the other team. This is the team that's batting. They line up on a line somewhere near home plate, just like normal. This is the dugout. So all these circles here are people, and all those X's are people. They don't even have to be even numbers. It's really irrelevant. You're just going to have a bunch of people in the field and a bunch of people lit up. And because usually there's so many people, they're not going to play traditional positions. Now, the rules of the game is you're going to have a pitcher, and the guy gets one pitch. Gets one pitch. So I'm going to teach it as kickball. So he's going to roll the ball, and the pitcher is on the same team as the catcher, and then there's a batter and the guys in the dugout. Okay? You stay on the bases. There's no leadoffs. So you stay on the base until the ball is kicked. And that's a rule that you as the umpire watch, because if somebody tries to get a jump, he's out. You stop the game and you teach them how to order, play by the rules, use self-control, right? No scoreboard in this game, for the record. But you're making them play with a whole heart, strong will, clear mind. So it's not like they're casual because there's no scoreboard. We're actually using no scoreboard on purpose to teach them to not think about the score as they learn how to play with their whole heart and do their job. Their job is to play. It's not to coach. And it's not to be in charge of the scoreboard. There's a cone outside first and third base. I'll describe that in a second. So we got people that are going to bat. It's kickball. You got people that are going to field. The pitcher and catcher are all on Team X. They get one pitch or one roll. He's going to roll it up there, and somebody is going to be hitting, and he doesn't have to stand. Don't make a big deal about where he stands, etc. He's going to run and kick the ball. Another rule in this game is there's no bunting. There's no little taps. Everything is hair on fire. Kick it as hard as you can. Be creative. Use strategy. Kick it in places they're not. This is the goal. And when he kicks it, he runs. Now, you can play it a bunch of different ways. The way we do kickball is you can either traditionally throw it to the base and get him out, or you can catch a fly ball. Or if you throw it and hit him with the ball, and we usually say stay below the shoulders. Don't aim for the head. Head is not an out because we want guys going waist and below. Because we don't want to hurt anybody. And you might have 9-year-olds playing, right? And if it's a volleyball, that would hurt if you hit him in the head. So depending on the kind of ball you use, factor that in. So he gets one pitch. If he fouls it off, if he kicks a ball and it's a foul ball, he's out. Everybody goes back to the original base. No bunting. Kicking it as hard as you can wherever you want. Some guys miss-hit it. It's out. Some guys hit it all kinds of places. You get the point. He runs to first base. Here's one of the rules that's unique. We're trying to teach him to not fear making outs. So rather than run to first and run by the base if the ball's in the infield, we have him run and turn the quarter and keep running until he's out. Now, we don't want him to just run and blindly get out. We want him to think about making the opponent make a play on them. Does that make sense? Part of sport is just doing the right thing. It's not about making big plays. It's doing the right thing, being in the right place, and in the midst of doing the right thing, the other team makes an error. or they make a mistake. It's like in ping pong. You can either try to get people out, or you can just keep the ball in play and they make a mistake. And so our goal is to teach guys to force the action so the defense has to make plays, because it's hard to make a play in kickball. It's hard to make a play in softball when you don't have a glove. And so he's going to run. If he kicks it out here, he's going to run, and he's going to keep running. And if there's any way, unless this guy is holding the ball, looking at him, he is never going to stop and go back to the base. Never. I would rather they make an out trying to get an extra base than stay at their base, because I don't want them fear making outs, and we don't have a scoreboard. So when you don't have the scoreboard, it's easier for them to understand, I'm going to force the action. Now, regularly, because it's hard to throw a kickball, the ball, if they do try to get him out at first base, it goes somewhere crazy, and he just keeps running. And then they throw it to second, and he keeps running. And they learn to throw to the further base to stop him from running rather than try to get him out at the base, because he's running with his hair on fire. He's trying to make a play by just playing wholehearted, and he forces the opponent to be more effective because they have to get him out, if that makes sense, versus it just being a single, ball goes back to the pitcher, there's a new batter. We're also forcing the action, breaking fear of making it out, and making the opponent make plays instead of everybody keeping their card close to the vest. And so he's going to run until they either hit him with the ball, throw it to a base he's not at, or they're so far in advance with the play that he goes back. And they learn to do that over time. I'd like them to make the play on the base, but as they throw it to him, if he runs by, then this guy's got to throw it there. The more times the defense has to handle the ball, the more chances there are of mistakes, in particular if you're using a ball that's not traditional. So it's very fast and very fun. Next guy comes up. He's on whatever base he's on. He kicks the ball. Fly ball rules like normal. Tag ups like normal. Grounders are all live. Run. If he kicks it to the short box, I encourage him to run. I want you to run. Run. Make them make a play. Even if they kick it here, run, makes him field it and make a play on you. It's always about making plays and forcing them to make plays and not fearing getting out unless it's clear that they're holding the ball at the base, and to go there would be foolish, if that makes sense. So it's baseball. They keep going. One pitch. This guy is with the defense. He's with the defense. Now, here's where it gets kind of cornbally. At the end of 3 outs, the team that's up, and they keep circling back here, they have to run out to the field inside the bases. Okay? So inside this base, they all run out. So every one of these guys goes out this way. He can't come standing out here because the game is continuous. There's never a stoppage in play. There's never a stoppage in play, which means that as soon as there's a third out, as fast as somebody on this team can get here and get the ball, he's going to pitch it, hoping that their guys kick the ball before they get out in the field. Clarification. The pitcher, this is my fault. The pitcher is always with the batting team. So you're pitching to yourselves. That way somebody's not trying to throw cockeyed pitches so you mishit it. And that's critical when you change innings. Meaning, we just made 3 outs. And these guys have to run with their whole heart to play defense. And these guys go inside. They all have to be here. They can't be running around. They go from their place inside the bases out. And the other team has to come outside the cones. So you can see all these X's have to come to their side here. Everybody's going to run around a cone. They can either go around that cone here, or they can come around this cone here. But if anybody comes to hit inside the cone, it's an automatic out. So people forget that. So they got to be thinking. So sometimes you can have 1 out or 2 outs, or have 3 outs before you hit, because 3 people brain lock. So the communication comes because everybody's reminding, remember, outside the bases, which gets them interacting with their mouth and doing it positively instead of, come on! That would be a negative response. We might talk. How did that feel when he said it that way? I felt like he was mad at me. I felt like, who are you? Why? So you get all these opportunities to teach the power of words, positive words versus negative words, etc. Everything is on the table to teach. And you can stop the game as often as you want. And every time you do, you make everybody run to you. And if you see one guy not running full speed, you point him out not to embarrass him and say, did you run full speed? They'll say no. You'll say, why not? You'll say, I don't know. Run back. So you may make the individual run back and run to you full speed. Did you run full speed? Yes, I ran full speed. Did he run full speed? Yes, he ran. Now, everybody sees what full speed looks like. They feel what it looks like. So I might send everybody back and everybody to run to me again. I might do it 2 times to get them tired, concentrate, and learn what it feels like to run full speed. That's part of the what's it like to play with your hair on fire. That's that great passion part that we're tapping into. And so, once again, once there's the third out, immediately they go inside the bases to the field. Somebody is going to catch, and the team that was in the field is going to pitch, so he or he is going to come right there, and the people are going to come around the bases, and somebody's going to immediately come, and he's going to roll the ball before they're ready to field. The goal would be, and then some guys strategize. They realize, let's make sure that the next hitter is the pitcher. So when he's done, or the next hitter is in the infield, so when 3 outs happen, he immediately runs into bat, and somebody immediately comes to pitch, and they immediately kick the ball while these guys are still running out there. You can see with a softball, with a mouse ball, if somebody's a good hitter, and they're all like right here, and he hits it out there, that's how you get home runs. You get home runs because they're never in a position to play defense. So you're giving them the opportunity to experiment, to learn creative ways that the next guy in order is closer. Because if this is the guy who's going to hit, and he has to run all the way around and get here, then they're all set on defense. And so they strategize that people who are in the outfield who are going to hit next, they come to infield positions. That's part of the thinking of the game, that you allow them to learn on the run. Now, if you do it year after year, people learn that. But in the beginning, that's one of the creative ways you change things. So again, key point. As soon as there's a third out, somebody immediately can come into pitch to his own team, and somebody immediately goes to hit, and they kick the ball as soon as he can pitch it. And if it's a foul ball, it's out. That's the only time really the game is stopped. The referee can stop the game at any point. A foul ball is dead ball, right? A live ball is live until they throw the ball to the pitcher, and then it's dead. People can't steal. You can monitor that as the coach. Rules are they're all coming outside the cone, and they're going inside the bases so there's not collisions. That's what that's for. Again, you kick the ball, everybody runs. It's typical rules. There's force outs. Fly balls are out, but you're teaching the guys to just run. Now, if somebody's going to overdo it, and he's going to run the circles and just make it out easy because he isn't respecting the game at some level, then don't keep running if the guy in third is holding the ball. That's the only time we want guys to pull off the throttle. Otherwise, make them make plays. Make them throw it home. Make them tag you. Now, we're generally, when we did this, we played on a beach. There's no sliding. So everybody's standing up because the goal, again, is not to win. So we want to make sure nobody gets hurt. There's no sliding. Don't throw the ball at the head. Outs at first base with grounders. When you're playing kickball, it's hard to get a guy out at first. If you kick it on this side, the bottom line is he's going to make it. But in the game, he might run. He kicks it over here, and he's going to keep running. Once they get smart, if he feels that he doesn't even try to throw to first, he throws to second to stop the momentum. These are all things they learn. But in general, we want them running. And as a coach, you're always watching to make sure that they are doing maximum effort at all times in every way, running in and out of the dugout. When they run out, they run full speed. When they run in, they run full speed. If you catch even one guy, call him out. Not to be mad, to say, was that full speed? Educate the people that are watching and other people are doing so they can see what full speed looks like. And they can feel what full speed looks like, because we're trying to teach them to play as close to perfection, 100% as possible, every single rep in this process. And that's every time we go in and out of the field, and every time they kick the ball, etc. So, mush ball, softball, kickball. Kickball is the safest with multiple age people. You can play mush ball. If it's a softball, it can't be hard, because if they're afraid to catch a grounder, it defeats the purpose of the game. You can have unlimited players in the field, unlimited players hitting. They do have some kind of order. If you bat out of order, that's not a good thing. There's strategy involved, because they realize we got to go from the field to one of these guys has got to be the pitcher, and one of these guys has to hit. Now, I've seen it played before where even if you hit, that guy's got to go around to here, which slows it down. But if you want to strategize it, they can go here, he can go here, he rolls it. One of these guys is going to be the catcher. The rest of them are going to go in the field. Some people play it with no catcher. You can do that because the bottom line is they're going to kick every ball. You never take a pitch. So the only time you need a catcher, if you play this way, is if there's a play at the plate. So that one of these guys on defense, if there's going to be a play at the plate, he runs up and plays catcher. That's a simple way to do it also. So there's never a catcher. You create your own pitcher. The game's continuous. It's only stopped when the umpire stops it. He's only going to stop it on a foul ball or an out, or when the pitcher gets the ball and we're ready to go again. Continuous running, continuous moving. Break fear is don't worry about making an out. I'd rather you make a mistake than make an out. Run, 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 run. Excuse me, did I say that right? I'd rather you make a mistake and get thrown out, right, than to hold back, pull off the throttle, and be cautious. And since you're not worried about winning, you don't. Now, once you throw the scoreboard out there, that guy doesn't want to turn a single into a double. And that's a coaching point. It's say, the fear of getting out stops you from playing on your hair on fire. Now, there's a point practically, as we said, that we don't want to be foolish of making out. But we want guys to strike. We want guys to dive for balls. We want, in the sport, we want maximum effort. In volleyball, to dive for a dig. In baseball, to dive for a grounder. In football, to reach and stretch. In every sport, there's probably some element of this little extra piece that is exceptional, that's not natural, that you have to train into the guys by making them do something that they would never do in a traditional game. They break fear because there's no scoreboard and they can play. Their hair's on fire because you can see what it looks like and you coach them to know what it looks like. They do put-ups to get them verbal about building each other up. So you could stop in the middle, call them in and say, the next time, before I call a break, I want you to make 4 put-ups to somebody on the opposing team before we come back together. That would be acknowledging somebody with a great effort or a great play or a great whatever. And it's not a public deal. They're doing it privately or they're hollering. Noise, chaos, hustle, fervor, all the thing that happens in a contest when it gets chaotic because there's pressure and stuff. I want that, and I want guys to keep opening their mouth. I want to keep them going full speed. I want them to fight through the fact that they're tired, and we're making them push and push and push. I want to break fear so they learn to play free. That's not natural. To play free is not natural. These are all the things that are part of our philosophy. As I said, this is just practical stuff. 1 pitch, foul balls are out, no bunting, 3 outs, no stopping for anything, there's no score. Introduce score at the end if you want to show how it changes the dynamic of the game and how people start reacting to the fact that they make outs, fail, or their team's behind. I generally don't do that. When I teach it, we just stay playing free because I don't care and I want them to know I don't even care in this. And frankly, when we play Friday night, I don't care then either. I don't care at all about that compared to that. This is what I care about. That I care less about. Do I care about it? Sure. I just care less about that than that because this is the process. That's the result. Outcomes, measurables don't concern me. I want this. Attitude, effort, intensity, focus, sharing, caring, put-ups. And they're visibly feeling and seeing it and you might do this for an hour. You might take breaks. You might, as we said, whatever you want to do. Just get going on it. Try it. It's the best way I've seen in a controlled climate to get people having to think a little bit, have to strategize a bit, but play free. And it's so fun, and it's noisy, and it's loud, and there's energy, and I make it matter to them, and the scoreboard isn't necessary for that. And that's where they learn to play fiercely, even though there's not a barometer in the game. Because most people will only play fiercely when there's some kind of objective outcome that measures their success. And when that's lost because they're ahead or behind, their effort, intensity, and everything diminishes. And we want to lose that. That's hustle ball.